We're asking you this on Shootout with the all-new Nissan Rogue, redesigned, redefined. Who should the champions Liverpool be looking to sign in the January transfer window? All kinds of injuries. We know that, Greg. What area do you think Jurgen Klopp might be looking at?
Yeah, I think they need some help with scoring goals. And who thought we'd talk about that coming into this season? And who thought we'd talk about that after they added in mid-September Diego Jota, and he ended up making an instantaneous impact, especially in the Champions League and carrying Liverpool through to a perfect record. But there's some struggles right now scoring goals. Look, I laid out the reasons in the summer why I didn't think they could repeat as champions. You laid out the reasons why they would repeat as champions. It's still very much there in a real crowded house, if you will, in the top 5 or 6. But nonetheless, it's amazing. We're talking probably now about a necessity for Liverpool to add to their infrastructure to win the title, Steve, as opposed to just an insurance policy. It's really interesting how it's got there.
It is. And you make a good point. And I recently called the game at Fulham and to see them live and close to the pitch, where, of course, they got another injury at half time, which I'll come to about in a moment. And they finished that game. I watched the front three. They did. They looked sluggish. They looked tired, and understandably so. Of course, they'd been to the Champions League. But I'm just beginning, like many clubs, the games are beginning to catch up with them. Jota's injury now has changed the landscape because I suddenly thought the options to Liverpool there. Shaqiri, who's not available. Minamino finished the game. Origi, and the fact that he's only played 4 minutes in the Premier League all season tells you, to be brutal, where he is at the moment in Jurgen Klopp's thinking. So if anything was to happen now to one of those front three, there's a big, obvious drop in the depth of the quality. But Greg, I agree with you in terms of goal scoring. And I'm going to tell you where I think they should strengthen in January. But I also say this, Greg, that two things. One, in this crazy world in which we're living in at the moment with the economics. And two, Jurgen Klopp, never a huge fan of January signings, although, of course, he made one unbelievable one in Virgil van Dijk. He likes to say with that group, he's very big on the youngsters. He doesn't want to stop the development of those players. He doesn't want too big a group to try and keep happy. So if you put those factors in and how difficult it would be to go and get a player that would fit in to the standard of like a Diego Jota, let's not forget, still cost $40+ million. I think it's unlikely, to be perfectly honest, that Liverpool will add anyone in the January transfer window.
I look at Liverpool and I think, where are the struggles right now? Mane, I can't figure this out. I think Martial's struggling at Man United the same way Mane's struggling at Liverpool. 8 games in all competitions without a goal. But he's getting chances, Steve. That's the concerning thing. I look and I say Liverpool need to score more goals. Remember, so much of what they did last year brilliantly was Alisson in goal, was the back end, was keeping the ball out, was winning 1-0 in 2-1 matches. City was a little more run and gun. City scored a ton more goals than Liverpool and had a better goal differential. But Liverpool won when they needed to. So they'd have to score more goals this year probably to win, and they'd have to stay as healthy. So they need to add infrastructure. They need to add depth, and they know all these other squads. Spurs improved. Chelsea improved. Man City, we still expect them to be there at the end. I know they've had some results that they wish that they didn't have and need to improve on. So a lot of great questions for a man who treasures loyalty like Jurgen Klopp, but there's still going to be pressure to do great things in the Premier League and in Europe. He's got a lot of big questions and maybe a few sleepless nights this holiday season.
Yeah, but look, let's remember, the list of injuries and absences is incredible. What you've got to remember, this is why I don't think certainly no more than one new face will arrive at Liverpool in January, because when those players come back, then he won't want 28, 29 players because he'll have an issue. And in terms of what Jurgen Klopp spends, whether it's an Alisson, a Van Dijk, a Jota, they're to go straight in. They're starters. They're big players who are going to play an awful lot, not an Origi who's going to play 4 minutes in the Premier League all season. I actually think if they did actually go into the reserves of that transfer budget for a position, I think it might be centre-back, because obviously Virgil van Dijk, we no idea when he's coming back. He certainly probably isn't coming back this season. Joe Gomez has got another injury. Matip has been carrying a back injury. So there's his first 3 centre-backs. We saw Jordan Henderson play at Fulham recently as a centre-back in the second half. And that's a twofold thing. One, he's not comfortable in that position. And 2, you're missing the skipper's influence in midfield. But again, if you'd probably come back to me and say, well, who would they shine? I'd probably say somebody like Upamecano in their age range at Leipzig. At 21, semi-finalist last year at Leipzig, got them into the top three in the Bundesliga against all odds. But are Leipzig going to let him go in January? No. Are Bayern going to sign him at the end of the season? Probably. And this is Liverpool's problem in terms of adding in January without damaging what that mix that Jurgen Klopp has got between experience and youth at the moment. I think he's just got to ride it, Greg. It's just unfortunate, and he's just got to ride it.
There's one name I look at, and I don't know that Liverpool would be in the driver's seat to get him, but I think about Inter Milan crashing out of Champions League, and I think about Lautaro Martinez. Martinez might be a player at 23. Remember, Liverpool's strikers are they're in their prime, but they don't have a young score. They're not like Chelsea right now, where they're going to ride guys forward. Liverpool probably does indeed ride this out. They've had far more injuries, and the Van Dijk thing right away you thought, well, is this going to have an instantaneous impact? It didn't create a lot of losses. Alisson being out with a hamstring injury and finally coming back to form. But for the most part, as we've talked about with Liverpool, there's so much there. There's got to be a rallying point where they, North American slogan, but circle the wagons and find a way with the players they've got.
Fascinating discussions for the Premier League champions. All of their games, of course, you will see over the festive period right here on DAZN.